Hello, folks. It's Jason Neal with a little channel that I started called Splash Talk. You can email me at splashtalkpodcast@gmail.com. No weird spellings. It's spelled the way it is. So, what is this? Episode number 5. And let's talk about more music. Let's talk about concerts and the prices that these people are charging for these tickets, and my experience with, I guess, going to concerts and paying for these tickets like a lot of other people. So what is today? Today is Monday the 24th, 2023. I hope everyone's day, and I guess not too much week, it just started, is going well. I hope everybody has found peace in their life in one way or another, however you may do so. I don't know about you folks, but I've always enjoyed going to concerts. And as I've said in my other episodes, I'm 50 years old. I was born in 73, to save you from doing the math. And it was, in my opinion, it was the thing to do. Go to concerts. That's where people had the same interest as you, for the most part. What was your first show that you ever went to? You can email me if you'd like, and we can discuss it as much as we can through email. These ticket prices are insane anymore. I know that years have passed and inflation and all this yada yada stuff, but I remember concert tickets being $18.50, and this was a big national tour. And now, what is it? Bruce Springsteen is charging up to, I think it was $5,000. That is $5,000 for a ticket to go see him. And of course, when he was interviewed, he's got all kinds of excuses, like they all do. But let's take some things, let's put some things. What am I trying to say here? Let's talk about a few things that factor into this. What I'm trying to say. So, in the 80s, you didn't. I guess it depends on what era of the 80s you're in. Of course, every genre or every decade has their era, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So, it really didn't matter what show you went to. It kind of depended on how big the artist was. So, I get that shows are much bigger now, but when I was going to them at that time, they were big. They were bombastic. They had a lot of lights, and all this stuff was coming in to its own in this time period. Staging, as far as lighting and props or whatever you call it, was starting to be utilized more than ever. People were now listening with their eyes instead of with their ears, and which we all do this nowadays. And when you went to a show, you would probably go with some friends, you would go with a girlfriend, what have you, and make kind of a day out of it. And after school, after work, because let's keep in mind, we're going back to when I first started going to shows, and probably you as well, that it was an event within itself. You would show up after you get something to eat or whatever. A lot of people just go and go get booze, and I'm not saying I didn't do that. I just can't really remember me doing that. And it might have been because of the booze. I don't think so. It probably was. So, you'd show up at the venue, and you'd be psyched going all the way there. You'd be listening to the music that you're getting ready to listen to. I never quite understood that, but you get there, and a lot of times there'd be tailgating and things like that going on, and you would meet people. They would have their music blaring out in the parking lot of the venue. And at that time, it was an arena thing. 15, 16, 17, 18,000 people. The whole outside pavilion amphitheater thing, I'm not saying it wasn't a thing, but it was just starting to get going. So there wasn't tons of these places around. But now they're everywhere. And from my understanding, all of these places in the United States are owned by Live Nation. Just, I guess, for a little bit of fact information. Well, they're owned. Yeah, they're owned by Live Nation, and a lot of times, Live Nation will lease the name out to companies. So, as I've said in the past, there's been a place that we would always go to called Deer Creek. Well, that name has changed like 5 times. It was Verizon Wireless Music Center. It went to Ruoff Mortgage Music Center something. I think that's what it is now. And there was a few other variations within there. I still think Live Nation owns this, and they lease that name out. And it was that way at what used to be called in Indianapolis the Hoosier Dome. Then it became the RCA Dome, I believe. Now there's an arena up there in Indianapolis that used to be, and there might have been another name before this. It was called the Field House. Now it's called Gainbridge Field House, I believe. Always changing names. So, you would be out in the parking lot, tailgating, I guess, as they call it, and meeting people that had the same interest as you do. And again, you didn't have cell phones, so it was more or less a memory. You could write your number down and give to these people. They'd call you, probably more so no, or they'd call you and no, who the hell is this? Why do I have your number? So it wasn't uncommon. So it was an event, and with the whole COVID thing and all of this, you can't do that stuff no more. And rules are so strict at these places nowadays, for whatever reason. So, you get ready to go in for the warm-up band or the opening band. They've all changed that. Now, instead of a warm-up or opening band, now it's our guest, because we don't want them to make them feel like shit because they're just an opener. There's been many times throughout my music career I would give anything just to be a peon opener, and still would. So you'd go, and we always sit in the lawn. That's all we could afford at a pavilion type place. Which, like I said, there was only the one. Other than that, there was the regular arenas. And if you got there early, the parking lot was just a parking garage. Well, you can't do nothing there. So you go in, you meet people, and it was always kind of a journey to try to get to meet these people or to get an autograph. Something that it wasn't so much the autograph, it was the journey of getting there. Because sometimes you'd have to jump fences, jump gates, or not gates, but jump fences, and run through fields to catch these people. There was an incident where my cousin ran after a tour bus, and he got the job done. Everybody signed his t-shirt, which he kept many, many years, few decades later, and gave it away, sold it, or whatever. That kind of sucked for me, so because I really wanted it. But anyway, it was a place to meet people that you didn't feel like an outcast. They had the same music interest, and even they liked the same people as you did for the most part. And nowadays, let me go back. When you go to these places, they were packed. I mean, they were packed. Every seat was taken. The lawn would even be sold out. And for many years, I didn't understand how a lawn could be sold out, but trust me, you can only put so many people in the lawn area or just a field. So nowadays I've seen things through my kids with Lizzo. I don't know who some of these other people were, but they took pictures from inside an arena with Lizzo, and around the arena was kind of spotty with people, and the floor, I mean, there was just people randomly standing around, and half of the floor was empty. And from where the people started until where they got to the empty part, where the sound guy usually is, I mean, you could put your arms almost straight out and not touch somebody. It was very loose. And I'm thinking, man, back when I was going to shows, you'd be elbow to elbow, and these people charge so much for these tickets. So I guess back to what I was saying earlier. I get sidetracked easy. I understand that a lot of these shows aren't big production back then, but they were starting to come into their own. They were utilizing lights more and backdrops and all this stuff, if you call it a backdrop. Not a backline, but backdrop. And they'd have maybe 5 to 9 semis with with gear in it and lighting, sound, all that stuff. So we move forward to nowadays, like I said, with Lizzo. I don't know what her tickets are, but people are paying $300, $400, $500, $600 just for a mediocre show, and they're carrying some of these people not as much as they did 35 years ago. Except Kiss, you have to take them kind of out of this because that's all they've been known for their shows. The music is always great, but I mean, let's face it, it's mediocre. It was always about the show. And I didn't turn my phone off. Actually, my phone should have been on Do Not Disturb. So anyway, hopefully it won't go off again because I don't want to fool with it. So, everything is so expensive nowadays. Fuel is more expensive. To rent these trucks are more expensive. Everything is more expensive because you have to pay for, these people have to pay for hotel rooms and, rental cars while they're in town because they don't take those tour buses everywhere. These semis have got to be fueled up. And as of today, fuel is $3.75 where I'm at. So, I understand why tickets are so costly. But for some of these older guys and even younger, they don't care about the fans as they say they do. It is a money grab. It is all about money. And I know this, I know it's not about, Stephanie in the second row here. I hope I made her night when we did Walk This Way or Dream On. They're not thinking about that backstage. They're thinking about the next show and let's get the hell out of here, pack this shit up, and let's roll out. They don't care. They understand that without you, they do not have a job. They get that. So a lot of times they put that out there first. Without the fans, we're nothing, and we work for the fans and all this stuff, which is true, but they don't. They work for themselves. It's about lining their pockets and getting them as deep as humanly possible. They do not care, or they would not be charging these prices. Even, like I said, the cost of everything has went up. I get that, but not $5,000 a ticket, not $500 a ticket. They're not carrying massive shows anymore. Everything is stripped down. A lot of times, you don't even see a backline on stage. And what I mean by that is amplifiers and things like that. You don't see that anymore. Everybody runs direct. Everything's right through the board, and they're using in-ear monitors so they can hear everything. Drum sets are not huge and bombastic like Neil Peart and Eric Singer of Kiss. His still is, because they're still a huge money-making machine. But when you see all these bands, these drummers have little 4-piece kits. Everything is so scaled down nowadays. They are charging huge amounts of money. And anything going on political, they will jump on board with it. And that might not even be their beliefs, but they'll make you think it is. It's all about selling that ticket, selling that product. Because let's face it, these guys have, people my age are going to see bands, and these guys are in their 70s. It's time for them to go. And they're using backing tracks and everything because they can't hit them notes no more. They can't perform like they used to. And they are not selling albums or units. There's none to sell. Record companies really don't exist no more. Everything's done in recording studios that consist of a computer and an interface that you can plug a mic in, you can plug your guitar, your bass, even drums if they're electric. And then you can process it through things like Pro Tools and other software like that with endless tracks. You can manipulate it however you want to make it sound like make it sound like that you've spent a year making this, stacking all of these vocals and all this, and all you've done is push a button and duplicated your own voice. So, record companies, for the most part, have become a thing of the past. And it was not so much recording. What it was, a lot of it, you wanted to get a record deal, yes, so you can make money and go tour and live that lifestyle. But the record companies are the guys that obviously had the money. That's who pushed you. The A&R guys, without a record company, you didn't go globally. No one knew who you were. They did the advertising. They got you played at radio stations. They got you on MTV. They rubbed elbows with these people, to give you that push that you need. You don't have that no more. Now you have social media and you do it all on your own. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying for older people, as myself, we might understand what's going on, but we don't care to join in on that process. Most of us. I'm not speaking for all people that are 50 years old. But, that everyone can make an album in a studio wearing their sweatpants first thing in the morning. This guy can do his guitar track, send it over to the drummer that possibly lives halfway around the world in another country. And instead of him flying over, he can just do his drum part in his little home studio and email it right back. And then you get your producers and all this, and engineers and masters, and get all this stuff put together and make, a product out of it, which is an album or what have you. But it's not. Everything's streaming now. So that's why these guys are still going out, and some of them are sounding like shit, and they're using backing tracks and everything else. That's how they're making their money. But they need to go home. I love these bands, but they need to go home. It's time, as my dad always said, and it's true, music is a young man's game. No one wants to see a 70-year-old up there, singing misogynistic songs and, Motley Crue having girls in cages singing Wild Side or Shout at the Devil. It looks horrible. They're old ass men, but they're still selling that product. So concerts have changed so much over the years, and it's not the magical thing that it used to be. And it bums you out. I haven't been to a show in probably, I'd say it's been 3 years. I went to, and as I said in another podcast, that when I was when I wore a younger man's clothes, as they say, I had went to see Debbie Gibson several times and was a huge fan for probably 10 to 15 years. More so probably 10 years. Because I love pop music and I love metal. I jazz, you name it. I like it. Except new country. You can just have that. I don't do rap and new country. And it kind of goes hand in hand. As far as I'm concerned. So I mean, what are your memories? What do you think about this ticket pricing and how things have gone? You know, these bands don't care about meeting you. If so, you're going to pay a meet and greet. But it's been like I said, it's been 3 years since I've seen anybody, and it was Debbie Gibson, and it's because I know the bass player. And he was very gracious enough to get me and a few people on the list and get us in. No, we didn't get special treatment. Okay, we might have a little bit, but it was it was a great time. But the magic wasn't there anymore. She's changed, and in my opinion, doing her own money grab. And that's fine, but we'll leave it at that. And before that, again, it was me and my mom and my oldest daughter went to see Alice Cooper in Indianapolis in a theater type setting. And it was a fantastic show. And we went out back and we got to meet everybody several different times. And so, see a lot, and even though, you know, you can still meet these people occasionally without paying a meet and greet thing, I think that's ridiculous for somebody to charge to meet you, only to get pushed through like cattle. But that was the whole part of the journey, is to, you know, have that memory of how you got to meet somebody. And I still have all of my pictures of the people that I met and all the autographs. It has nothing to do with that. When I look at that picture or that autograph, it takes me to a moment in time. And I'm sure it does you as well. Thank you for joining me, folks. Again, my name is Jason Neal. I do a little thing called Splash Talk. You can get a hold of me via email at splashtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to future podcasts. And the next one, I don't know what it's going to be about, but it's going to be something completely different other than music. Thank you for being here, folks. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye for now.